is Friday afternoon here in Israel. I am broadcasting out of the beautiful rolling hills of Judea in Israel. And it's time for a little bit of grill and Torah. As you can see, there's no grill here, and I'll explain in 1 second. First, I do want to invite some people in. And by the way, everyone who's watching this, I implore everyone to please join my page, the Ari Fold Israel Defense page on Facebook here. There will come a time when I will not be doing the videos on my private account, but rather we'll be doing it through the Facebook page. So everybody who watches this, who likes to get the grill and Torah and the other videos that I put out, please do look me up and like that page, and as well as subscribe to the new public page that I put up. It's the Iron Fold Israel Defense page here on Twitter. I will put the link on right after the broadcast. I'm just inviting a couple of people in, so I might see the phone bouncing. So give me 1 second. All right, who's in the house? Bracha, how are you? Lilia is here. Everyone, share it out. Let's get some people on here. And of course, I want to start out by saying that I will be giving a Dvar Torah on this week's Parshat Shoftim. But before I begin, I want to, of course, put up the link for the soldiers. It's very important. You know, everybody who's here, hey, Deja, how are you? You got to know that all the Israel advocacy stuff I do, as much as I love to do it, is not my job. My job is I'm running Standing Together, trying to help and show support for IDF soldiers. And it is taking up my time, all the Israel stuff that I'm doing. So everybody who's watching this, I'm asking you, right as soon as I'm done, please hit the link that I'm about to put up. We have the summer campaign going for the soldiers. We basically bring them refreshments and stuff out to their bases and their training areas. It's right there. And so right as soon as I'm done, everybody hit that link and join me. All right, we got 15 people on. Raphael, how are you? How you doing? Ariel's in the house. Great. Let's get 20 on. We'll get started here. Bracha, Shabbat Shalom to you and your family. Thank you, Bracha. Michael's in the house. What's going on, Michael? You got 17. 3 more. We get started with the Dvar Torah, this week's Parsha. The question has to be asked. Judaism. Is it a monarchy? Is it a democracy? Is it a theocracy? What should the government of Judaism be? What is the goal? What is the, in other words, we have, in Hebrew we say, there's the matzui and then there's ratzui. It's what we have and what we want. So I'm talking about what we want. I'm talking about Malad Duim is in the house. Everyone, let me know where you're tuning in from, all right? What is Judaism supposed to be? What kind of form of government are we supposed to have? And how is it supposed to work? So this week's Parsha, Shoftim and Shotrim, the Parsha opens up. The judges and the policemen. Lydia, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Everyone, please do share it away. Let's get some more people in here. Before I continue, let me invite some of you who did ask you to invite them in. So 1 second. And everybody, again, I'm going to tell you, please subscribe to the live feed so I don't have to go and invite everybody every time. But right now I'm doing it for you, so give me 1 second. There we go. 5. All right, there we go. All right, who's here? Minnesota's in the house. Ed, what's going on? All right, where is everyone tuning in from? Let's go. Let's hear it. Paulina is here. Paulina, where are you in from? Miriam is in. Where are you in from? Jerusalem, right? Fiona is here from the UK. All right, fantastic. All right, we want to get to 20 people. We're going to start, so let's go. 3 more people in the house. Let's get it going. 18. Sari Singer is in the house. Where are you? Where are you in from, Sari, now? You in New York? All right. So the question I asked at the beginning of this of the short class, Ramat Gan, all right. Toronto's in the house. Paulina, nice to have you from Toronto. Watching from the UK. Shalom, Kieran, thank you. All right, so before I begin, 2 things. Number 1, I'm going to say again, everybody, please, when we're done with this, I want you to help me out and hit the link with the soldiers. We got a lot of stuff to do this summer, and everybody should be involved. We hit 20, so I'm getting started. So hit the link. I put it up a couple of comments before. I'll put it up again at the end. I'm telling you the reason that I'm inside, by the way, for those of you wondering, where's the grill? Mark, what's going on? Well, the truth of the matter is steak is getting a little bit expensive. That is the real truth. So we're going to have to cut it out a little bit or get people to sponsor it, right? So that's why I'm inside right now. If you're interested in doing that, just send me a private message. We'll get that going. You know, if you want to do it for someone's refuah or for someone's memory or an honor someone, we can do that as well. But it comes out to around 200 shekels a week every time I do this. It's around $70, $60, $70 every grill and Torah. So we're taking a break. All right? All right, let's go. So this week's Parsha Shoftim, the Parsha opens up talking about Shoftim and Shotrim, the judges and the policemen, if I was to translate it literally. And it's giving us a little bit of a heads up of how the government is supposed to be run according to Judaism. And again, we know that the advice that we're going to hear about in this week's Parsha was actually received from Yitro, was actually received from Moshe's father-in-law, who said to Moshe, you can't do this on your own. You need some kind of committees. You need judges. And Moshe did put up judges. And here we have what seems to be a system of government according to the Torah. So it starts out very, very clear. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha. There should be judges and police in all the gates of the cities. Asher Adonai noten lecha, to the land that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving to you, to the land of Israel. Lishvatecha, for every tribe. V'shaftu ta'am mishpat tzedek. And they should judge the nation with justice. So it seems like the Torah is talking about a system of government, or a judicial system, a judicial system that seems pretty much like we have today. You know, you have the judges, you have the people who make the laws, you have the policemen who uphold the laws, and then, you know, and in fact, it even goes further, but I'm going to hold off for 1 second. It has a hierarchy in terms of courts, right? It says here that if you don't know what to do, right? It's beyond you can understand the answer to the court case. Right? Someone comes to the court and you don't know what to do. Ben dam ladam, even if it's a court case that has to do with life and death. Ben din ladin, even if it has to do with money matters. Ben nega lenega, if it has to do with even tzarat, checking out what's going on with the body. Divrei rivot b'asharecha, different arguments in your city, in your gates. Go up to the place that God chooses. We're talking about, obviously, Yerushalayim, where the Sanhedrin is sitting. So if you can't figure it out in your local courts, go up to the Supreme Court. Where was the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court was in Jerusalem, in the Sanhedrin, in the Great Court in Jerusalem. So it seems like somewhat the judicial system set up by the Torah seems to be a little bit like what we know today. Well, not exactly. And we're going to get to why. So what's interesting is the Parsha starts out very, very clearly. It says you should have judges, you should have policemen to uphold the laws that the people are making the laws. They push through. The policemen should uphold those laws, make sure they're being kept. And then what's really interesting is it gives a couple of laws about how to deal with court cases. So it says, Lo tata mishpat, you can't be biased in your court cases. Lo takir panim, you can't recognize the people who are in front of you. If you're a judge and you recognize someone, you have to step down from that court case. You can't judge that court case. You'll be biased, right? Lo tikach shochad, you can't take bribes. Ki hashochad yaver enei chachamim. Because bribery will blind even the wisest of people. You notice it doesn't say they turn them into bad people. It says, David, thank you, and 6 others, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Kim, how you doing? Welcome. It says that bribery will blind the wise people. It should be strange. It should say bribery will turn wise people into evil people. That's not what it says here. It says bribery will blind the wise. The wise are the people, not just smart, wise. People who are able to look at truth and say, okay, I'm going to fight for this truth. And if it's a court case and it's a judge, I'm going to give the verdict based on truth. So bribery will blind the wise people. Okay? In other words, even though that they're wise and they know the answer, it's going to blind them. And even if they don't do it on purpose, they're going to pervert justice, according to what the Torah says. Okay? And then it says, tzedek, tzedek, tildov, go after justice, run after justice. Why? Leman tichya, so that you may live. V'yarash haaretz, and you will inherit the land of Israel. Asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach. Right? You have to decide. In terms of justice, your courts have to be built on justice. And twice, tzedek, tzedek, tildov. Justice, run after justice, right? And it says that what you will have there is you will live and you will inherit the land that God gives you. So far, so good, right? You have a society built on certain morals, and if you uphold those morals, you'll have a normal life wherever you live. Wonderful. Till there, everything's great and understood. Everybody share this out. Let's go. What happens next is really strange. And the Psukim say the following. Lo titalecha asherah. One shall not plant an asherah. What is an asherah in Hebrew? Asherah are the trees that were used for idol worship. Harlan, thank you. And 7 others, thank you for sharing this out. I appreciate it. So it says, Lo titalecha asherah. Don't plant these trees that are used for idol worship. Kol etz etzel mizbach Adonai. Don't plant any trees by the altars that you're giving sacrifices on. Asher taselach. All the altars that you make, you're not allowed to plant trees around them. Okay? Apparently there was a there was a tradition by idol worshippers used to bow down to trees. And the Torah says you may not have any trees around any of the altars that the Jews built. Now, where is that the case today? We should not have it. On the Temple Mount, during the times of the temple, there were no trees on the Temple Mount. Of course, there's punishment. It's not. Again, this is not prize and punishment. This is not, oh, if you do good, you get this. No, this is what we spoke about exactly last week, right? When you say to your child, you better be polite. If you say to him, if you're polite, I'll give you a candy, right? So he's 2 years old. He says, thank you, you give him a candy. 3 years old, you give him a candy. By the time he's 15, you want him to say thank you, not because he wants the candy. You want him to say thank you because it's the right thing to do. So we're not talking about punishment now, okay? So it's not that there's no punishment for bribery. Of course, there's punishment for bribery, but we're not talking punishment now. We're talking about moral standard. You shouldn't take bribery because it's gonna blind your wisdom. I'm going to explain that in 1 second. It's a very important lesson. But then let's go on 1 second. So I was saying on the Temple Mount, at times of the temple, there was. Thank you, Tammy, for sharing. There were no trees, no trees. And the reason for that, because idol worshippers used to bow down to trees. So when there's around a temple and there's around an altar, there are no trees around. On the Temple Mount today, the Muslims build trees that are all over the place. But according to Jewish law, no trees around that area. You shouldn't make yourself any kind of shape or anything, any kind of shape or matzeva is like some kind of monument. Will you worship that monument or that shape? Nothing. You're not to do that, right? Why? Because God hates that. Now, the question is, this is all okay. Daniel, what's going on? The big question is, why is this coming in a parsha when we're talking about the judicial system? Hello, the judicial system is human. It's talking about judges. It's talking about police. It's talking about the government. What all of a sudden it jumps to these laws of you shouldn't have trees, you shouldn't have build statues and build symbols. What does that have to do with the judicial system? But it's not finished yet. Look what it says. It says, "Lo tizvach l'Adonai Elohecha," you shall not give a sacrifice to God. Shor v'aseh, any animals it says is a sheep or a shor is a bull. Asher bomum, that is imperfect. Okay, you shouldn't give a sacrifice to God of animals that are imperfect. Kol davara, anything bad, anything that bad. Ki to'evat Adonai Elohecha, because it is bad in the eyes of God. And again, what is this doing here? What does sacrifices have to do with the judicial system, with setting up a government? It almost seems like the right? People talk about government, democracy. Sacrifices? Trees? What are you talking about? What do one have to do with the other? Now it goes on, right? And it says, if you find in your heart, or in one in your gates, that God brings down, gives to you a man or a woman, a man comes out, and a man or woman, and he wants to go against the covenant of God. Right? And they go worship another God, and they tell the nation to go worship another God, or to the moon, or to the stars, whatever's in the sky. Anything that God did not command to worship, this man or woman is coming down and saying, worship those things. And he tells you, and you hear it, and someone tells you, this guy, and you hear it, look into this, right? And you find out that it's true. A man or woman's coming down and telling Bnei Israel, the nation of Israel, to worship something else, and you find out it's true. You take this person, at the front gates of the city, or the man or the woman, whoever's doing it, right? And they have to be killed. And again, what does this have to do with court, with judges? In other words, when I need a judge, right? When I go to court, the reason that I need a judge, if I'm suing someone's suing me, right? What I need is I need the judge to look at all the evidence and come to a conclusion about how to split up the money or the damages. Here we're talking about someone who's idol worship and you have to kill him. Again, we're not going to discuss the case of the idol worship itself, but what is this doing here? what does this have to do with setting up government or judicial issues? What does it have to do with it? Okay? Then, as if like nothing happened, the Torah then goes back. And it says, Ki pareh b'mcha davar. It says to the judges, you get a case in front of you. People are coming here. Shabbat Shalom, John. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. I really appreciate it. Everyone who was on here, invite your friends and you'll see what's going on. Okay, so it says if it comes to the civil courts, it comes to the courts in whatever city you live in, and the courts don't know the answer to the civil case, right? This person's suing, he says the damages, whatever it is. They don't know the answer. What do? The Torah says you bring the case to the place where God commanded, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, to the Sanhedrin, and if they don't know the answer, then, well, again, in Moshe's time, the small courts and the big courts, and eventually they came to Moshe and says, Moshe, what's the Jewish law? What's the answer? Right? They go up the ladder. But it's not going up the ladder because I don't like what they said. It's going up the ladder saying, well, they didn't know the answer. They didn't know the Jewish law, so we go to the next level, the next level, the next level. Right? Shabbat Shalom Aryeh. So what happens is the following. At the end of the day, we're getting to the top level of the person who knows the Jewish law. And he gives the answer. Okay? Then what happens? This is very important, pasuk, what's going on here. Who are these judges? What are they basing their judgment on? Right? You have judges in the American courts today. You have judges in the European, whatever you are. They hear the testimonies from both sides, and at the end of the day, they have to make an educational decision, guess, whatever you want to call it. No, Aryeh, no, it's stogether.org, stogether. And they have to make a decision, and the question is, decisions that judges make today, what are those based on? Those are based on the rules of the country they live in. So judges in America have to pass judgment based on the rules of the United States of America. Judges in France have to pass the judgment based on the rules of France, etc., right? Judaism says the following, and this is really important, right? It says the following. You have to come to the judge in that day, v'darashta, v'gid lecha dvar hamishpat. You go to him, you give him the case, and he will give you the answer, the justice. He will give you the correct answer according to his judgment, right? And then it says, you must adhere and do to what that judge told you. Right? Again, what is this? Just because the judges have higher power? Is this because of society falling down if we don't listen to judges? That if we don't listen to orders, it'll be an anarchist kind of society? What is this about having to listen to the judge? And it's not about only listening to the judges. Listen to this. And you must keep everything they tell you. But listen what happens. What are these judgments based on? Al pi Torah, based on the Torah. Based on the Bible, the Torah. Asher arucha. That is based, what the judges are commanding you to do is based on the Torah. And based on the mishpat, the case that you come to and they tell you what to do, you must do that. You may not go to the right, you may not go to the left, you have to do exactly what the judges tell you. But the reason for that is because the judges are deciding not based on their ideas, not based on their ideology or their politics or anything else. No. They're not based on if a right-wing government comes in, or a Republican, or a left-wing, or a Democratic, that they make the Supreme Court judges and they now pass judgment based on what the politics are at that time. No, it's exactly the opposite here. The reason you can't go against the judges according to the Torah is because those judges are passing judgment only based on the Torah law. Now, Vaish, the man who goes against on purpose, he goes against the word of the judges, has a death penalty. Death penalty. For not listening to a judge, you get a death penalty? Why? Because this is not about judgment. This is not about courts. This is not about courts. This is really about theocracy. It's about the word of the Torah. It's about the word of Kadosh Baruch Hu. You see, when we define morals, Darla, thank you so much for sharing. When we define morals, Jews at least, Judaism, we don't define morals by where we are in society at that point in time. We don't define morals by what's comfortable. We don't define morals by what the politicians are saying today, wherever they might be standing. We define morality only by the Torah. That's it. There's no morality without Torah. It's very simple. And again, it doesn't mean someone who doesn't keep Torah is not moral. Not at all. For example, America right now, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. Right? It's parallel to the basic tenets of Torah, which is wonderful. The problems happen when society takes a right or a left turn. What do? We have to stick to Torah. Right? So if they say abortion is okay, or if they, again, not in cases where the mother's in danger or raped, we're not talking about that, or they say other things that are immoral according to the Torah, it doesn't matter how popular it is, doesn't matter how much pressure they're going to put on me, I'm not going to change my morality, which is based on something objective, not my comfort, to a morality that's called relative morality or moral relativism based on their decision at that point in time because it's popular. And they say, if you don't take it, you're primitive. Okay, I'll be primitive. Okay? But now, what happens, how do the judges, by the way, judge in Judaism? The judges in Judaism judge by a majority. They judge by a majority. So if we have, it depends what level. We have 3 judges, you have 23 judges, you have the big Sanhedrin, 71 judges. So what happens is, if the decision is split, you base the decision, what the person has to list on, based on the majority of the judges who voted in a certain way. Okay? That's democracy, isn't it? Right? Well, yes, but democracy is not defining morality. It's everybody going in the same moral line. All the judges have the same moral code. And if they have a question about one or two things, then they are now deciding on the same moral code. In this case, what happens? But they're not changing morality. Democracy in Judaism doesn't change morality. Democracy is used to strengthen the morality that already exists. Okay? But then, what happens? The next pasuk. Ki tavo la'aretz, you come into the land of Israel. Right? That God has given you. And you inherit it, and you settle it. And then you say to the leaders, put on us a king like all the nations. Make us a king like all the nations. What does that mean, make us a king of all the nations? Now, we know that we have a king in Judaism. We know that David HaMelech, King David, is the king. We know David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam. David Melech Yisrael is eternal. We know that the Messiah is going to come from King David. Mashiach is going to come from King David. We know that the kings can never leave the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Yehudah. So, and that's in the Torah. Lo tasoshav Yehudah. The idea of kings come from the Torah. But we know that when Bnei Yisrael asked for a king, it was a negative thing. Well, why was it negative? Because those 2 extra words that they said, it said the following. Asim alai melech, put on us a king, kechol hagoim asher sivotai. Like all the nations that surround us. Well, Bnei Israel came to the land of Israel, saw Egypt. Egypt had a Pharaoh. That nation a king. This nation a king. This nation a king. We want a king too. You missed the point. That is not a king. Okay? Again, we'll bring it down to our level. President. What is a president? Well, today, in today's world, and not about Trump, Obama, Clinton, it doesn't matter. A president today is not a moral standing. It's not. Okay? It never was. The president is not a moral standing, okay? It's not like we're choosing a religious leader or even a moral leader. Yes, he might be moral in his personal behavior, but we're not choosing someone to define morality or uphold morality. We're choosing someone to govern the country. To govern the country. He didn't even have a say in morality. The courts do. Well, the question is whether the Supreme Court has it, right? So today's democracy, all democracies in the world, right? Those are the head of the democracy. The president is not a moral figure. It's not someone who defines for us anything. Now, if we look at religions of today, okay, you have the Muslims who have their imams and their clerics and their mufti and the waqfs. They are what we're talking about, except for the fact that their source is not Torah. That's the problem. In other words, theocracy is not bad as long as it's based on truth. If you make up another religion and you say you're theocratic because you're based on that religion, okay, but that religion is not the religion. You changed it. So again, if I say I'm democratic but I'm changing the rules of democracy, I'm not democratic. If I say I'm democracy but I make all the decisions, that's not democracy, right? You have 1984. Everybody's equal, but there are some that are more equal than others. That's not equality. Okay? So the sin that Bnei Israel did was they asked for a king like all nations. And that is not the point. Let's look at what the Torah says about the king. This is unbelievable. He says the following. First of all, it has to be from within the religion. It has to be from Jews. Okay? He can't have a lot of horses. He can't have a lot of wives. He can't have a lot of gold. Right? So those 3 things alone, right, completely negate most kings in today's world. right? Most leaders in today's world, most even religious leaders in today's world, right? They're very fancy about themselves. They live like kings, and they certainly are not listening to these guidelines of what a king is supposed to be, right? But that is all no's. It's interesting that the Torah was talking about a king first. No, no, no. Okay, but what is a king yes supposed to do? What is kingdom in Israel? What does it mean? So listen to this. Listen to this. Here we go. When he's sitting on his throne, write him a Sefer Torah. Write him a Torah scroll. And you write this Torah scroll that the king is going to have, write it in front of the Kohanim, in front of the Levites and the priests. And it should constantly be with him, this Torah scroll. And he must read it and learn from this Torah all his life. Leman, for what reason? In order. Yilmad lira, in order that the king should learn to have awe. Of what? Lirat Adonai Elohav. To have awe and fear of God, his God, the king's God. Right? In other words, it's very easy to someone who says, I am king, to also actually maybe say, I am a Kadosh Baruch Hu, I am God. He's saying, no. That king, that higher hierarchy in terms of that monarchy, the head, David HaMelech, Shlomo, right? So there, it says he has to have a Torah with him all the time to make sure that he has fear of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, of God. Lishmol, he has to keep et kol divrei Torah azot. He has to keep this whole Torah. Vet chukim ha'ele, and my laws, the Kadosh Baruch Hu's laws from the Torah. La'asotam, and he must do them. A king is not free to go, well, I'm king, I can do what I want. As many horses, wives, money. No. That might be a modern king or medieval king. Not according to Judaism. Not a lot of money, not a lot of horses, fancy schmancy, not otherwise, you're not to do that. And you have to have a Sefer Torah, and you have to keep to the laws. Now, why? Levilti rum levavo. May his heart become, his heart shouldn't become conceited. Mechav, from his brothers, from all of Am Yisrael. You are not, the king is not special than Am Yisrael. He's a person. Right? And right here's the pasuk. The king is not anything more special than any other human being. Right? Ulivitisu mina mitzvah yaminu small. And may he not uplift his heart to say, I'm much more important than the commandments that God gave me. You don't overtake the Torah. Nobody overtakes the Torah. Leman, why? Yarich yamim amamachto. And then if you follow these rules, you have long-lasting kingdoms. You and your children amongst the nation of Israel. Right? So from here, we see that the idea of monarchy in Israel is not the exact thing of monarchies that people call around the world. Yes, there's a king. But we didn't read anything about the king here. It's certainly not about being fancy and about having gold. That's not what it's about. In fact, it said no, and then it pushed the king down. You know what you have to have? You have to have a Torah with you. And what you may not become conceited over God or change the Torah because you say, well, I'm king, and I want to now people respect me, or I want to change these laws. So at the end of the day, where are we going? We went Shoftim v'Shotrim. We have the democracy. We have the Torah. That's a theocracy. And then we have the king, the monarchy. Well, what are we supposed to do? Which one is it? Which one is it? So I think that, this is the key. There's the vessel, and there's what's inside the vessel. And so there's a famous story about a rabbi, one of the rabbis talking about, he was not exactly the best looking guy. And one of the Roman princesses said to him, man, you're ugly, rabbi. And the rabbi says to him, well, what can I do? And then he took care of the king's wine. So one day, the princess comes to this rabbi and says, Rabbi, all this wine, the barrel's broke. What do we do? He says, get me the most beautiful golden barrel you can find. She says, what? He says, well, listen, you got king's wine. We got to put it into a beautiful golden barrel, right? So she brings in those beautiful golden barrel and he puts all the wine in. She says, oh, thank you so much. A week later, the king takes the wine and drinks it, and it's ruined because wine inside gold does not keep. It turns into chometz, vinegar, I think it's called in English. And she says, it was him, it was the rabbi. And the king says, why'd you do this? Well, he says, I wanted to teach the princess a lesson. she looked at me and said, I'm ugly. I was going to teach her that the wine of the king, which is worth so much money, is not dependent upon the gold barrels that they're in. So yes, there's a king, and yes, there's theocracy, and yes, there's judges and there's policemen, and it sounds like a regular society. There's just one small, tiny little detail that differentiates that from everyone else. All those people of the hierarchy of government, king, the judges, the policemen, everyone there, they must be ruling by the Torah. There is no value of having a king who is ruling not according to the Torah. There's no value of having judges and policemen who are not ruling according to the morality stated by the Torah. There's no point. It doesn't matter if you have democracy. And again, unfortunately, I could prove it to you. Hitler originally got up by democratic elections. Democracy is not holy. Depends what you do with democracy. If you democratically cut out and kick out morals, that is not a positive thing. If someone democratically votes to kill anyone who's part of what religion or whatever, that's not a positive thing because it was voted in democratically. You're not going to tell me, well, shut up, it was democracy, you're undemocratic. Yes, I am undemocratic when morality is on the line. You will never convince me to behave in a way democratically voted to be immoral. That is not what the Torah says. Democracy is a tool to uphold morality. It's not a tool to define morality. Let me say that again. Democracy is a tool to uphold morality. Democracy is not a tool to define morality. And certainly democracy should not be a weapon to destroy morality. Ever, anywhere. But for that, you need a definition of morality. So the Torah says, number one, Torah. Number one are the rules that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us, are the commandments that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. It doesn't matter if the majority of the world decide that it's okay to eat pig. I, as a Jew, can't do that. It doesn't matter if the whole world decide, well, you can't have kosher slaughter anymore. It's irrelevant to me. We'll do it in secret. We'll be criminals because your democracy that's trying to define morality based on your subjective opinion will not take over the objective morality of God, and therefore I will not give in to that. But however, when it does come to morality, of course there's democratic decisions there. And the problem today is when one defines themselves belonging to a country, because the democratic part of that country, the question is how do they define their morals? If one defines their morals by their country, that is a very scary thing. We know that we blame people who live in Germany in 1933 through 1945. They say, well, I was living in the country. No excuse. People have a responsibility to behave themselves irrelevant what society is talking about. That's very hard to do if you don't have a definition of morality. So the Torah is saying something very Shoftim v'Shotrim. You have to have judges and you have to have policemen. Yeah, it's all true. And yes, you can have a king. But the underlying thread through all that, through the democratic, theocratic, and monarchy governments, the thread that has to tie them together, the thing that will make sure that society stays a moral society, is the fact that all of them have to be ruling and deciding based on the morality decided by Kadosh Baruch Hu, given to us by Torah. And if it's not doing that, all those positions are worthless. The fact that someone calls themselves a CEO is not worth anything unless the business is going somewhere. The fact that someone calls themselves president, they are president. But if they're not doing anything, it's just a title. Okay? If someone calls themselves rabbi and they're going against the Torah, their title's not worth anything. So if it's a rabbi who steals, the title's not worth anything. It's a rabbi who's going against Jewish tradition, it's not worth anything. Doesn't matter the fact they put the name rabbi before their name. Totally irrelevant. I say this to people all the time. I don't use my rabbi title, by the way, for very good reasons. But the point is that someone says, well, this is Rabbi so-and-so. I don't care. It's in this week's Parshat. It talks about a false prophet, right? And it says right here, if the prophet changes a single letter of the Torah, he's a false prophet. Well, what if he does this? And what if it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because the title before the name does not mean anything unless their actions fulfill their title. I'm going to finish off with one thought and then let you on a little bit, a couple more pieces of information. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been studying martial arts for many years. I am a black belt, and I meet these people who say, well, I'm a black belt too. And I said, really? And how long have you? And they said, well, I've been studying for 4 years. I got my black belt for 17 years. So again, the title doesn't mean anything unless you have something under the belt. You can go to a store. I tell my students all the time. They say, how long does it take to get a black belt? I said, 30 seconds, and it'll save you a lot of money. Go to the store and buy yourself a black belt. Just don't bother me. Go. It'll save you a lot of money. It'll save you a lot of time, and a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain. Just do it. Akiva, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbos, man. Right? But no, the belt is not the issue. The king is not the issue. The judges and the police, that's not the issue. The Torah is the issue. The morality is the issue. And if you're not following the Torah, you're not following morality, all those positions are worthless. And that's what the Torah is telling us here. So you ask me, what is Judaism? It's a theocratic, democratic monarchy. That's what it is, people. All right. Before I get off here, I'm going to want to remind everyone, please join me on my public Facebook page, because I am weaning off this page onto the public page. And Facebook is giving me a little bit of a problem. They're not pushing that page so much. They want me to pay. So it's the Ari Full Israel Defense page. And the reason that I'm not doing a barbecue today, because steak has become a little bit expensive. It's like costing like 200 shekels, like $60, $70 a week. So I'm not going to be doing it every week. We'll see what happens. But if anyone out there wants to sponsor it, you let me know, and you do it in honor of someone, or in memory of someone, or even for someone to get better, whatever it is. Talk to me in a private message. First of all, share the video out with everyone. Let everyone get a little bit of Torah this week. And one last thing I'm going to tell you, those of you who love these videos and you love what I'm doing for Israel and all that stuff, that's great. And I love it, and thank you for sharing. I'm just going to tell you one small thing. My job are the soldiers. Okay? So I'm going to put up the link now, and everybody out there can do something. All right? You can do $18. You can do $100, whatever it is. If everybody would pitch in a little bit, we can get to that many more soldiers. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Really have an awesome, awesome weekend. You can share still. All right, I'll put that up in 1 second. There it is. There's the link, people. First of all, hit the link and donate. Number 2, share the link with your friends and family. Explain to them what it is. Wishing everyone a wonderful, wonderful weekend. God bless from the beautiful, stunning rolling hills of Judea, Israel. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.